Boa tarde. Hoje temos o privilégio de ter uma conversa entre mães, com crianças, com crianças que estão padecendo da encefalomialgia e COVID longa, e também mães ativistas. E temos o privilégio de ter uma conversa entre a Linda Tannenbaum, que foi a diretora executiva e fundadora da Open Medicine Foundation, que é um referente global e que está financiando pesquisas em centros colaboradores em diferentes partes do mundo para encontrar uma cura, não só para as nossas doenças, mas também para algumas das nossas comorbilidades mais comuns. E também temos a mãe ativista Catarina Santos, de Portugal, que trabalha muito nesta área de sensibilizar, de apoiar outros doentes e de promover um conhecimento e uma abordagem séria a esta doença, além de ser mãe de uma doente. So I'll switch to English. This is a privilege for us to have this conversation today on between mothers, mothers who, in addition or because of their caretaking role, have risen to positions of activism in supporting other ill patients. We have the privilege of having Linda, who's taken her activism to a global scale, being the founder and executive director of the Open Medicine Foundation that is looking for solutions through the collaborating centers throughout the world. And we have Catarina Santos, who is an activist here in Portugal as well, and beyond in the Lusophone world, helping other mothers, helping patients, advocating for evidence-based approaches, educating doctors, and essentially shaping all of the grassroots work that we do. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to Catarina.
Thank you. Thank you, Joan. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
I've been watching some of the interviews you've given in the past, and some of the questions might be repeated. But for those who don't know of you yet, I wanted to ask, what is and why did you create Open Medicine Foundation?
Well, thank you. And thank you for the kind introduction, Joan. It's always a pleasure to be here. Well, I as a parent, I have a daughter who has ME/CFS, and she got it when she was 16. And when she was sick, I'd never heard of chronic fatigue syndrome or ME/CFS or anything that she had that made any sense. And so when she was sick, we had to go to 20 different doctors, and each doctor said, I don't know what she has. I think you should send her back to school. I think she's probably just wanting to be home. And you know, all of those words that we hear from doctors all the time, dismissing the illness. And meanwhile, my daughter literally was stuck in bed, could not get out of bed, could barely lift her head, could barely eat. And doctors saying, well, you know, you're really enabling her to do this so she doesn't have to go to school. And meanwhile, she was a top volleyball player. She was a top student. She loved friends. She went out all the time. And here she was in bed and couldn't get out. So we went to every doctor we possibly could think of here in Southern California, and nobody knew what she had. And literally at the 20th doctor, and we counted and wrote them down because it was unbelievable of what happened. We finally got a diagnosis of what they called at the time chronic fatigue syndrome. And they said, we know what she has now out of exclusion. She doesn't have anything else. We have tested everything we could, but there's no treatment except pain management. And she was in a lot of pain. And so I said, well, at least maybe we could reduce her pain. And of course, as you all know, there were no treatments for that either. So that didn't help. And whatever we tried, and tried different things and made her go through different things, nothing helped. Nothing made her better. So after we finally had a diagnosis, at least I was able to start researching it. And before AI, you go into deep research yourself on the internet and see, what is this? What is chronic fatigue syndrome? Who's researching it? I'm sure the government's doing something about it. I need to find out who are the specialists in the world. We need to go find out. And I found out that really nobody was doing anything that was significant that was going to help my daughter in any way, in any shape, and understood finally that it really was a diagnosis that fit the description that was described in the internet. And then I found out that millions of people had this, and I was in shock. Because when you have your daughter who's sick and you have some symptoms, you think it's the only one that's having these particular symptoms, and then you realize that these symptoms make sense and they are a diagnosis of something that's out there. People know about it. People are diagnosed with it. Not very many of them have a diagnosis, but those that do. And we found out that maybe over 20 million people in the world have it or more, because they really don't know how many people have this.
Yeah.
So while my daughter was sick, my background is laboratory medicine. And so I said to her, when I'm not your caregiver anymore, because you're going to get better, we need to set up some type of foundation to do research and find out a way to diagnose this, so people don't have to go to 20 different doctors to get a diagnosis. This is ridiculous. And we have to find some treatments. So I started going to a couple conferences. There weren't very many, but I went to a couple conferences and met some other patients and some other caregivers, spouses actually at that time, not parents, and realized that researchers that were doing research were literally standing up and talking about their published data and sitting down. There were no science meetings. They weren't talking to each other. There wasn't any forward movement. But knowing that, I realized that I really have to do something. And so the doctor that I was seeing with, our doctor, who is Dan Peterson, who we all love and appreciate everything that he has done for so many years. I eventually ended up with Dan Peterson by another whole story, and was blessed to do so. And he said he was interested in doing some research with his patients. And I said, well, I'm going to set up a foundation and raise money so you could start that. So I started a foundation in 2010, Neuroimmune Disease Alliance, I called it. And it was really a foundation that I set up with family and friends and saw, could I raise money? I have never gone raising money or even asked anybody for a cup of sugar, but I needed to ask our friends to what they could fund for research in this area. And of course, I couldn't raise a lot of money with just my family and friends. But about a year and a half in, we were able to fund a couple projects with Dan Peterson, which was very rewarding to begin some research. But I saw that we really could do this, but I needed to take it into our larger level. So I was contacted by this wonderful person in Europe who asks to remain anonymous. But she contacted me to get some researchers together to set up a research meeting. Saw that I had a nonprofit because I had a website and I was starting to reach out to people. She saw that I had a website. She said, you have a nonprofit in the US. Can we get together with the people the researchers that I know in Europe, and you can get the researchers that you know in the US, and have a meeting and decide what to do with research. And so we did that together. And that was in 2012. And we met for 2.5 days with 20 different researchers, 10 from US, 10 from Europe. Many of the people that you know already were pulled into this particular meeting. And at the end of the meeting, we said, okay, now we have a list of 10 things that we want to do. We put them in order, but there's no money. So how are we going to fund this? So that was the establishment of Open Medicine Foundation. So I said, I need to set up a global foundation. I was working with Open Medicine Institute, where the first people that we were funding for research. So out of that, Open Medicine Foundation made sense to work and set up with them. And so we called it Open Medicine Foundation. And I liked the name because it was open medicine. And I wasn't going to fund anything that wasn't open and collaborative and global. And since we started global with researchers in Europe and US, we continued global. So we started building up a database from organizations in Europe, organizations in the US, organizations around the world, and started Open Medicine Foundation. And it went from there.
And thank you so much for doing that, because with my daughter also having ME/CFS, she is now better or able to function because of LDN, which I believe as part of your Lindo, one of your research programs. So the fact that you've been driving this and through everything, there's actual results on that. Also on
Mestanon.
Mestanon, exactly. So how do you get everyone to collaborate? How was that bridge? Because different culture, different people. How do you manage? How have you managed to do that?
Yes, that was something I needed to learn along the way. But truthfully, we're a nonprofit foundation raising money. And when you are funding grants and you're the funder, you can set yourself up that we fund and we only fund people who share. So I set this up differently than other foundations. Most research foundations fund by grant applications and review the grants and make decisions on grants. And I decided to do this through the researchers that I had met and trusted. So I had met these researchers that are our directors now at our collaborative centers. And rather than going to universities and setting up research or receiving grant applications and accepting them, I trusted and do trust the researchers that we fund and set up at those universities where those researchers were. And so I was able to say and set it up, and we have grant agreements with everybody that we fund. And so we only fund through the directors. And so the collaborative centers that we have each have a director. And those directors I knew before they were directors. And so we basically are all friends working for a common mission and decided to do it that way. So we fund through the centers, and then we meet every month to discuss what is new, what is coming out, what kind of research is happening, what problems are happening, what should we not duplicate, which is really important. We share samples between the collaborative centers, and then we meet in person once a year because we have Stanford and Harvard in the US, and then we have Canada at University of Montreal, and we have Uppsala in Sweden, and then we have University of Melbourne in Australia. So we are all over, and so we meet once a year in person, all of us, for a couple days, 2 or 3 days. We just met in June in Cambridge after the Invested in Me meeting, which is a wonderful meeting of researchers that get together. And the purpose of those meetings as well is to share data, to share unpublished data, to share what's happening, and have major discussions on what should we look for, what should we do, where are we going with this. So there's not duplication, but there's added collaboration. So we collaborate with other people outside of our collaborative centers. Because we've met other researchers in this space, because there's other people that are doing great research outside of Open Medicine Foundation. And so we collaborate with them also, but all of our funding goes through our directors and our scientific advisory board that we have. So it really is a setup that you have to collaborate to be funded, which helps the collaboration. It's a different model.
Are you able? It's a great model. We found that even doctors, they don't know, and they just stick to, I don't know. If you're lucky, if you are unlucky, they tell you it's all in your head.
Yes.
But they don't reach out through WhatsApp groups, through their networks and their peer system to find out, I have this patient, I don't know what he or she has. Have you encountered this? We found a lot of doctors very closed on this. They do not talk. And it's just easy to blame the victim, i.e. the patient, and then it's no longer my problem. So I believe I heard one of your interviews where you said that you need to do this work top down and from side to side and bottom up. You have to look at it from different angles and a few more, because someone is going to come up with an idea that someone else can then take it further, and it's through network that we improve. So yeah, thank you for thinking that way and simplifying.
Yeah. It is just on a sidebar, because yes, the major problem is the doctors don't know, and they either dismiss it or don't know and don't even know what specialist to send anybody to. So a lot of our effort in the last 3 years has been with the Bateman Horn Center to be able to educate more and more doctors. And the way to do that is it's very difficult, because the doctors have to be receptive to learning. They have created, and we've helped them create some major resources that we share with everybody. Everybody can use it. Everybody can hopefully translate it and then disseminate it, which is the hardest part, to disseminate it to the doctors, which is what we're focusing on this year. But we spent the last 3 years really deciding and working on resources that can be help in helping to diagnose, helping to try different things, helping treatments, because each doctor does treat patients differently. And so for 3 years, we got together with the specialists here in the US that treat ME/CFS and got their ideas and got their thoughts. And then Bateman Horn and Mary Dimmick put all this together in a resource for other doctors. And so it's another big project of ours and theirs and everybody else that we're asking to share with their doctors to disseminate this information, because still most doctors really don't know what to do or even to what to try, because at least to reduce symptoms,
And also have access to one thing doctors are afraid of, some doctors are afraid of prescribing LDN because of LDN is for junkies. They don't understand the low dose process. And then they're afraid of prescribing LDN and opioid medicine. They don't know how it interacts, so they just panic and therefore they don't. And then you have those that say, well, you shouldn't be in that much pain, therefore we can't give you any more medication. And so they just stick to that script, but that script does not apply to everyone else. Or particularly when you're going through your peaks of pain, like your child and my child and anyone that suffers from chronic pain, which is a pity. So maybe we can have these links also on our page, Joan, so that we can share with our doctors and our doctors' friends, just to disseminate and even use it with what I'll call reticent family members that don't believe, because that again causes not only is the patient dealing with the disease and the sickness, it's also dealing with the denial of your core people, your parents, your course family, and your primary care physician. And so I believe, I was telling Joan earlier, I believe that a lot of patients and carers actually have PTSD because of this. We're so abused by the system that if you're not lucky to have at least one core member that will believe you and be there with you, that your foundation is so shaky on top of everything else that you still have to deal.
Exactly. I've talked to a number of parents, and sometimes there's one parent that understands that it's a disease, and another parent thinks that the child should go back to work, go back to school, go back to their life. And I have had a number of conversations where a mother has said, could you please talk to my husband about this and explain that it is a real disease. But it's very, very hard for adults that are sick and suddenly their family doesn't want anything to do with them because they think that they're just lazy, as or not working, and it is one of the biggest problems of that. You're dealing with an illness. You're dealing with doctors who don't not only believe you, but even if they believe you, don't know what to do with you. And then you're dealing with family members that don't believe that you're actually sick. And it's something I will never understand, because when my daughter was sick and when your daughter was sick, I'm sure you knew, our daughters are sick. I mean, there's nothing they would do, differently. They want to do everything they can possibly to get better, and it doesn't make any sense that anybody would want to be sick like this. So, it is a problem, But there are resources that you can share with the doctors, and And LDN, by the way, just as a sidebar, the reason we did that first and doing that first is because when we got 32 doctors together to create some of these resources and ask them if there's any clinical trial that we can afford to do, what's the first one you would want us to do? And they said LDN because it is this one thing that really helps the most people at this time. And nobody knows about it except us as specialists. So if we do what we're doing and have a published paper, and then that paper the patients can take to their doctor, is our hope in this.
I have it open on my computer. I saw it yesterday.
Oh, you do? Good. Yeah. So.
And that's the thing. You also said somewhere in one of your earlier interviews that the patient knows more what they have. So we also need to educate the medical community to listen to the patient, because he or she knows what they're feeling, when they're feeling it. So listen to your patient with an open mind and with acceptance.
Exactly. I mean, it's amazing what we have learned from the patient community. That they know so much more than the doctors will ever know, and so we have to keep listening. And the doctors need to listen to the patients. That's really the number one suggestion to doctors these days. Mm-hmm.
They need to listen. Yeah, I found. I don't know what is your experience, but in my experience as a mother, as a non-medical mother, I've found that I've learned a lot from my daughter. She basically self-diagnosed. She went to the doctors with the full pack. This is what I have.
Wow.
Just please confirm. I say that she went to the doctor with the full PhD folder, forms filled in, the questionnaires. Huh? Diagnostic criteria made, the proper language used.
Wow.
Yeah, this is what I have. And even so, half the time she was shot down, which was very, very sad to see the aftermath of that. And then you have to pick up from there and say, well, we go to the next one until someone will listen. Go through different associations to find out doctors that know and can validate. And again, back to all of this causes pain and anxiety. And you spoke about pacing, and pacing is not just physical pacing, it's also emotional pacing. And that is so important. And it's important for the patients and the carers to be able to have psychologists that understand, or people that they can talk to that will understand, to go through all of this, because otherwise it's being completely alone is so much more difficult, if that makes sense. It's so much harder. So Joan has created a WhatsApp group in our Portuguese Brazil community, and that group is so welcoming, and it helps because someone believes in you, and that just gives you a bit of a okay, I'm not alone in this. Like you went in the beginning, you're not alone until you start researching and you find out there's millions of other people with this sickness and no answers.
No, it's wonderful that you're doing that and talking to each other within WhatsApp and the groups. And there are other social media groups that have gotten together with people. When my daughter was sick, I wasn't on social media, but we're talking, my daughter got sick in 2006. So there wasn't a forum, a platform of anything. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't know anybody until I got into setting up a foundation and met patients in that world. As a mother, I didn't know anybody whose child was so sick. So I really was alone myself. And my daughter, being sick, would say that if she was on this, she would say her worst part was that isolation. She wouldn't talk about her disease as much as it was being a 16-year-old and being by herself, because at 16, the friends are all doing their own thing and they don't want to come here and visit a sick person. So she was all by herself. So she would say isolation was probably her worst symptom, if she wants to call it that.
Yeah, I can sympathize and understand that.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm glad that that caregivers and parents and obviously the patients, the kids, hopefully they are too, But as a caregiver and a mother and a parent, it'd be great. It's great that you're in forums to talk to each other.
Yeah. In America, is ME/CFS now an accepted illness? Is it do you get an official diagnosis for it or not yet?
It's a good question. It is an official illness, but most doctors don't know about it, so they don't diagnose it. So I'm in Los Angeles, and there are hardly any doctors here that would call it ME/CFS. They probably would call it fibromyalgia.
Yes.
In Los Angeles, mostly when my daughter got sick, most of it was fibromyalgia, even though it's similar symptoms. And so many people with ME/CFS have fibromyalgia as well. But they would call it fibromyalgia. And in the city next to us, they mostly call it chronic Lyme. They don't test for it. They just call it chronic Lyme. And realistically, obviously, as we know, it's all the same symptoms or similar symptoms. So it is an accepted disease, but I mean, most insurance companies don't pay for all the tests that need to be done, even though it's accepted. And it is not accepted as a disability benefit, which is the worst. So most people, unless they get a great attorney, do not get disability benefits from having a diagnosis of ME/CFS. So our NIH, as you know, has accepted it and has the report out that they did with the Institute of Medicine. And you would think that then it's accepted as a disability, and it's not. But it is accepted as a disease. Yeah.
It's similar in Portugal. In Portugal, it gets also fibromyalgia is the go-to. If you don't know what else to call it, we call it fibromyalgia. So I call it the dumping ground of medicine. Just put it all in the same box.
Yeah.
And it's also not part of the disabilities. So
same thing.
If for you to get recognized, you have to go via to try and get a different way around it, because the knee pain is not caused by arthritis, but it's caused by something. Right. So you have to, which is unfortunate. So Joan is spearheading this huge what do you call it, Joan? Signing. Sorry, my language.
Petition.
The petition to try and get ME/CFS recognized in Portugal officially by the parliament. And then it will be the whole fight to get it through the system until he gets onto the disability or an accepted disability. But that's still, it's a process. But I'm going to test, I'm going to test the waters now with my daughter for disability with the ME/CFS plus Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And we shall see how that will go.
Yes.
But
good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because it's important, and it's just one of those other things that the patients have to fight for and don't usually win. You know, it'd be great if they got disability benefits, obviously.
And if one or two people can win, then they can, advocate it further and get. But this place gave, so please give as well. And it's just going to have to be a fight like that until it becomes more recognizable.
Yes.
Because being ill is very expensive, and if you don't get access to our medication here, LDN, I believe it went up 4.5 times from 1 month to the other, because doctors start prescribing it for people to lose weight, and therefore the companies went into, now we can increase the price.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. And again, if you're earning minimum wage, which a lot of people in Portugal do, more than 50% of the country, they earn minimum wage, then it becomes very difficult to be able to afford your own medication, just to survive, not talking about feeling great, just the bare minimum. So LDN went up the price a lot in the last 2 months ago, I think.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, because, one of the other reasons for us doing LDN is it's been the affordable drug that's available here. And I'm sorry to hear that happened.
Yeah, we need to, like part of the petition, we need to do something to make this not to become a a drug attached to losing weight, because anything attached to losing weight just has a different market value and therefore becomes so much more expensive.
Sure. I never heard of it, losing weight. I mean,
Apparently, it reduces your appetite, and therefore
oh,
doctors are prescribing it to patients to lose weight.
oh my.
Yeah, that was last month or the month and a half ago.
Oh my. Didn't know that. Mhm.
So I have a tricky question for you. I'm
Sure.
putting you on the spot. So what is your expectation for a cure? Where are we? What's on the cards?
Well, it's $1 million question.
Well, several $1 million question.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question that we keep looking for. You know, we are doing a trial that we haven't announced yet, and I'm not going to announce it yet here because this is public. But we are doing multiple trials, which is what we're trying to do. And one of them, most of the trials that are being done everywhere is to reduce symptoms. One of
Yes.
them, if it works, and yes, it's a long shot, if it works, that one is more for a cure. And so in the back of our hearts and minds, we hope it's the miracle that happens. But that particular one that we're doing is more in drug development, not that you could buy it off the shelf like LDN. But since it's curative, if it works, it's worth starting and looking at. We will announce it once we get all the approvals to go ahead with it. My reason for not announcing it yet is it's going to take quite a while to get through FDA. And I don't want people holding on to it, and it may not happen through FDA because that'll take a while. But we will announce it, but that is there. The other things that we're doing to look for a cure is really now looking at so many repurposed drugs, okay? And with AI these days, okay, we are looking in different areas now. It really has opened up some wonderful avenues to take a look at other drugs. And so we are looking for repurposed drugs that help other diseases. And sometimes, many times, something has been used for something else. And yet this was what we really may help cure something or at least reduce symptoms enough that people could get back to living. And so we're doing a lot of network medicine looking for which drugs are the best drugs to test next and test on patients. And so our goal is to really set up a clinical research network so that we could start doing a lot of trials when these come up, or pilots. And so when these repurposed drugs come up in our network medicine by all the computerization and all the computation that's happening, then we want to start testing them in patients and see which ones are really being significant and which patients are being helped by which drugs. Because as we know, different patients have different symptoms and they may be different subsets. So the $1 million question, we're going to continue doing this and looking for repurposed drugs so that way they're already available. And then also looking for targets with our big biomarker study that we're doing, looking at targets to see what is it that's showing up in the body that a drug could target that if it's reduced or increased will really significantly help. So we're working, like we say, top down and bottom up. One is continuing to look at the molecular cause, which is all of our collaborative centers are looking for. They're looking for the cause so that we could find a target, so we could find a drug for that target. The other is looking at blood samples to see what type of markers are changing when someone gets well. And then the third part is trying different treatments, because we might learn backwards what the cause was by a treatment that significantly helps somebody. So we're doing network medicine to find out what treatments to test. So that's why so much research has to be done, because there's all that has to happen because it's so complex. And something's going to happen in a breakthrough. I mean, the researchers, when they get together, they are excited of all the progress that's happened with us and others, and really feel like we're honing it in. When we first started, it literally was a needle in a haystack. We didn't even know where to begin. And we really are honing in on a lot of metabolites and proteins and cytokines that are showing up in different ways. And it's now the conversation is, well, when I saw this gene and you saw this protein, these two connect. I mean, let's take a look at all this together. So we really do believe that breakthroughs are going to happen, and breakthroughs meaning what is it that needs to be targeted to improve somebody's life. And so we hope someday we'll find something that cures. In the meantime, we're looking for the things that reduce symptoms.
What advice would you give to patients and their carers for the next 5 years, 10 years?
Well, I mean, the hardest thing is to hold on and with hope that really know that people are really working on this hard, and working on it because they really want to find a way to help people get better. I mean, the people that are working on this, as well as the patient community, are just the most wonderful people you've ever met. And they really care about people. And a lot of the researchers are patients themselves as well. And a lot of the people running things are like yourselves, are patients and caregivers as well. And so there's so much passion and effort in this space. But I think it's the hope that has to be there. And we came out with a survey that Martha Ecke did, which was wonderful if you've seen it, which was patient-reported treatments and how they've helped them. And my advice to people who are suffering at this point is to take a look at what is out there, and if you can and your doctor allows you, try different things if it's not going to hurt you. There's other people that have been helped by certain things while all the evidence-based research is happening, because evidence-based research takes a long time to become the word evidence-based research. But patients themselves have offered help to other patients along the way. You don't have to wait 10 years for a clinical trial to come out and see if something works. You can take a look at what other patients have said, what they've tried, what they've looked at, and it's worth looking at to see if it's something that can help. And most importantly, as we all know, pacing is the #1 answer to people with people who are going out and are able to get out of bed. Pacing is so important. And I don't know about your daughter, but when my daughter got sick, not only did I not know that word, but I didn't want her to be in bed and make it worse. And so I actually made her walk around the block with me, and I made her not exercise, but move. And the things I was doing for her were making her worse. And I did not know that. And I think it's really important for people to understand not only the word pacing when they're going through this, but something that they did yesterday could affect what they're doing today and tomorrow. And you don't put that together because it doesn't make sense. This post-exertional malaise doesn't make sense to most people. And I think it's really important when people understand that even though I took a shower yesterday and now I can't get out of bed, I can't even go to the doctor today because I can't get out of bed. Today's a bad day. Well, today's a bad day because I took a shower yesterday. For that connection is so important for people to understand, and people that have been sick for a long time still may not understand that because it just doesn't, it's not intuitive. It doesn't make much sense. So to help each other is important, to see what's out there that people are saying help them with something, maybe with sleep, maybe with pain, maybe with orthostatic intolerance, even if they don't know that word, so what can I take if I'm not so dizzy?
It's easier.
So I think it's important for patients to talk to other patients and help each other out and see what's out there that is helping each other while we're in the midst of doing all the evidence-based research that's happening. It's hard to keep on top of the research. It's good to be on top of what other patients are at this point, what it's helping them,
a big social media network is closing down groups that talk about dosings and dosages. So the people are finding creative ways, but admins of those groups and MECFF groups in not in particular, but as well, they are having to take down posts that talk about dosages, and this other network just cancels the entire group out, putting sometimes hundreds of thousands of people are together in a group, just completely disconnects them.
Wow.
Which is, I'll let you know
Sorry.
privately then what it is. And I find that's completely unacceptable, because it should not be. The patient knows what they have, and they can, like we say now, they can, this is working at this dosage. I have to increase by 0.5 or 0.25. Let the people that are actually suffering talk. And now there's this huge redlining on it, and disbanding groups with thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, because someone mentions a dosage without any warning, which is, again, completely and very, very, very odd. But it's happening at the moment.
That's a shame. You know, that's
Yeah.
a shame. It was why we were so excited about this Treat Me survey that's published and everybody can look at it. Is because Martha Ecke set this up really meticulously with dosing, so people could ask, you know, and answer, what dose did you take, what helped you. And yes, it's not mainstream medicine to decide yourself what you want to do, and it's not always safe, because so many things make you sicker, right? And so part of it is safety, I'm sure. And yes, you should always ask your doctor. If you read something and you want to try something, ask your doctor, can I try this? What do you think? Which dose should I take? But you do have to educate your doctor. So it is important to know what other patients have been helped by
People are
it.
doing and how they're doing it, and then always use common sense. But mainstream does not have a cure for this. Mainstream does not have management medicine for this. Everything that's being used is it's what do you call when the medicine is used for something else? It's off-label.
Yeah, off-label.
It's off-label and repurposed.
Right.
Then I have a question for you. I have two questions more for you. One is, how can patients access, or how can patients be of value to the research? How can they access research? How can they make themselves available to help this further?
Thank you for asking. We have a platform called OMF Study Me, and it's a obviously free platform for patients to go and sign up on our website under where it says Study Me Registry. And they sign up if they want to be part of research. And what that means is, if there is something in your local area, then we know who is available in the local area. Since it's global and we're not doing research everywhere, some things are just the surveys, okay, which are important, like this Treat Me survey. Okay, we got there were over 4,000 people who signed it. Many that Martha brought in before we even met her. And then when we met her, I said, let's just send it out to the people who signed up for Study Me and get more information. And we were able to, you know, to really increase the numbers, and numbers matter in those kind of surveys are really important when you're trying to gather information from patients, like I said, because they know more than anybody else. But if you sign up, and then what we do then is, whenever we have anything to include patients, then we go out and send an email, and we say, if you're interested, click here. If they click on it, it goes to the researcher themselves. We're not the ones that are vetting that, but we vet the researchers, so we know what they're doing. So we don't have any rogue researchers doing research in something that we don't agree with. We have to approve it. We have to see that they have ethics. We have to take a look at at all the details of it, and then if we approve it, then we share it. And there's no commitment, no obligation. You can even and you just, if you're interested, you click. So when we're doing a trial, we're doing a number of them at Harvard University right now at our Harvard collaboration. We are looking for additional people that live near there, and it's a clinical trial, so they physically have to go in to the site, so they have to live close enough to go to the site. But we were able to go out and say, anybody that has signed up to our Study Me, if you're interested, click here, and we were able to help the researchers recruit, which is a big benefit on the research side. The more patients that sign up to it, the quicker research happens. And so we don't always have research done in your area, and maybe and yet researchers that are researching in Portugal would be able to come to us, and we don't charge for anything we're doing. We are trying only to accelerate research and help researchers recruit and help patients be part of research. And so if researchers start doing more research in Portugal, we would really want as many patients that are interested in research to sign up for this. They don't have to commit to anything, but that way they know what research is happening, and they also can be part of it if they want. So we encourage people to sign up. There's no reason not to, but there might be a reason for them to, if they're interested, to help, So I would recommend that first on the research side from your question. Mm-hmm.
And my other question to you is, what else can we do? How can we as carers, we as advocates, the patients, how else can we help?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think the most important thing is doing what you're doing right now with awareness and with gathering other patients to talk to each other and other caregivers to talk to each other, and actually sharing the information that is there for doctors. And I think the best dissemination, it's hard to disseminate to doctors, but you can disseminate to patients and say, bring this to your doctor. And I think it's a wider dissemination if we get the patients involved more to do that.
Yeah.
We need to do better with that. We are working on that this year ourselves to do that. We ask, when we share it, we ask, take this to your doctor, send it to your doctor, email your doctor. They may or may not read it, but we're going to reach more doctors that way. And encourage, patients to really talk to each other, I think is the best thing. How can you help us? I think letting people know that we are doing research. Obviously, we're always fundraising, for research purposes, but we're also always wanting to encourage patients to be, to help themselves and to help each other. So I just think that's probably the most important here. We are going to continue doing as much as we possibly can. I know that you're trying to reach the government and see if there's research money that you can get from the government. We are continuing to do the same thing. It's a difficult environment, as you know. So we're going to continue doing what we're doing by all of our funding comes from the patient community, unfortunately. And so, but we will continue doing what we're doing as much as we can, and escalate what we're doing as much as we can. And you can encourage people to sign up for research and, do whatever you can to get your government involved. However you can. It's a very difficult task to do. But I think, little by little, some of the governments are understanding that research needs to be done in this area. 10 years ago, none of them were. So now they are,
Yeah.
some are. So it's worth pursuing, even though it's a long road. And I know, Joan, you've been working really hard with this, and it's a long road, but it's a road. So it's good to take. Yeah.
Linda,
Yeah, one needs to
and then
go,
Catarina,
John.
I want to thank you both because you, both of you are making such a big difference. One on a global scale, and the other is being, the tireless mother, not only to her child, but to mothers that are facing illnesses in their families, supporting patients, advocating. And Catarina, when we can't, because a lot of us are very sick, she's our legs. She goes to meetings, she speaks up for us when we can't be physically present. And so, she's one of the few healthy allies that we have that really gets it. And so she is a catalyst in herself. And Linda, you exemplify hope, and we're just so excited about the potential breakthrough. We're also very excited about the way you work, the ethics, the emphasis on sharing and collaboration. And I think both of you exemplify how one person really can make a big difference, whether it's in a family, in a community, in a country, and you, of course, globally and in the research community, Linda. And we want to thank you for your generosity to Portugal. We have been great beneficiaries of your largesse and that of your collaborators. We are currently translating the Bateman Guide. We have now
Right.
releasing it in chapters, and we are encouraging patients to take
Wonderful.
positions. And we will
Wonderful.
also be promoting it through the Portuguese Medical Association. We want to thank you as well for helping us convene the first ever scientific conference in Portugal. It made a very big difference because after that, people knew that this illness was real, and in ways that it would have taken us decades of work. You were able to help us convey
Well,
that.
thank you. I mean, realistically, you did all of that, but thank you.
She deserves all the credit, yes.
Yeah, I'll say. So, it was incredible what you've been doing there. It's just wonderful. You're really an example of what every group, every country should be doing. So thank you for setting a great top bar example here. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Linda, so much. Mais alguma palavra, Catarina, para fechar?
Just one word for you. You are an amazing conductor of all of us, a maestro to all of us. And we are happy to be of help because we need people like the two of you who do so much. And, and people like me at the lower scale, we are happy to be the foot soldiers, the arms and legs, just to do things just to help, because I think what we need the most is understanding. Let people that know other things like the research and the medicine, let them do it, but so long, at least, if nothing else, lend an ear, lend just some help, even if it's a little pot of soup to your neighbor upstairs who's ill, or little practical things that they don't hurt you by being kind. So just be kind until we have a solution to all of this.
I agree with that. The patient community has really helped each other, and it's just it's wonderful. I mean, it's the only silver lining about this is the community is just a wonderful community. It's just we all need to get everybody better. Yeah. And it's great that what you're doing, Catarina. Thank you for what you're doing. I mean, we're desperate mothers helping, to get everybody well, and really that's what needs to be done here. As a mother, you need to do something, and it's wonderful that what you're doing. As a patient, Joan, it's incredible of what you've done while you're not feeling well. It is unbelievable what you have done for all of Portugal, and it's just I commend you. It's just I'm in awe of you, really.
Yes.
So thank you, and thank you for doing this.